ill. Later on, however, I glanced at the register and found that his name was Heinrich Watzdorf of Essingen in Württemberg. That told me nothing, for if he were an adventurer, he would scarcely sign his proper name. Many times in the course of the years I have knocked about the continent, I have come across a good many human mysteries under different cognomens, and you who know the garish, fevered life of the Riviera are well aware that some of your chance-met acquaintances are scarcely such as you would care to recognize again in England. As a diplomatic freelance, I very often have been compelled to mix with a curious set, and although I had no motive whatever in knowing this mysterious Mr. Watzdorf, yet the suspicion he had aroused within me somehow attracted me, and therefore, next day, I contrived to chat with him and become on friendly terms. It was the day of the Battle of the Flowers, and as all the seats were sold, I invited him into the judges' box beside me. The judging at San Remo, as at Nice and Cannes, is done by an international committee composed of representatives of nearly every European nation, and the prizes for the best decorated carriages are sums of money, in addition to beautifully painted silken banners. The February afternoon was perfect, with brilliant sunshine and blue sea. Everywhere the little town was decorated, and along its narrow principal street, very much like the high street of one of our provincial towns, the Battle of Flowers was waged with delight by the crowds of wintering foreigners and holiday-making San-Ramis. We stood together looking down upon the gay, animated scene as the people pelted each other with bouquets. But my German friend made few remarks, and from his words I gathered that carnival in the south was, to him, no new experience, for he seemed essentially a cosmopolitan. Suddenly, however, there appeared a smart victoria drawn by a pair of well-matched greys, the carriage being literally hidden by masses of pink carnations, even to the wheels, while built over was a canopy of the same sweet-smelling flowers, an arrangement of blossoms that could not have cost a penny less than £100. Upon the horses were long ribbons of the Italian colours, red, white, and green, and within the carriage sat an extremely handsome, dark-haired woman of perhaps 35, exquisitely dressed in the same shade as the flowers around her, while beside her sat a sweet-faced little lad of about 8 years old, her son evidently. As she came along smiling, and now and then tossing a bouquet of violets here and there, a chorus of admiration broke from the crowd. "Brava! Brava!" they cried, and everyone at once asked his neighbour who was the beautiful stranger. Nobody knew. We in the judges' box at once agreed that she should be given the first prize of 3,000 francs for the best decorated carriage. But the procession did not halt, and she passed by triumphantly, smiling at me and at the others. Just as she passed, she caught sight of Watzdorf, and in an instant her countenance betrayed surprise. As their eyes met, he had raised his hat to her, and for a moment stood holding it in his hand. She bowed, and then a faint smile showed at the corners of her mouth, while her son, too much occupied with the pelting of violets, noticed nothing. Then my German friend made a strange, half-imperious gesture of the hand, which she evidently understood, for she reluctantly, almost wistfully, turned from him with a deep sorrow in her great dark eyes. Yes, I felt sure that grief was hidden there, for in an instant her eyes were filled with tears, and she turned away from us to hide them as her carriage went forward and out of sight. My companions had not noticed this, and the man with the black spectacles believed that he had been unobserved. "Pretty woman, that," I remarked casually to him in English, a language he spoke exceedingly well. "Yes," was his answer, in a low, hard voice, and his mouth shut with almost a snap. I expressed wonder as to her identity and admiration of the taste with which her carriage was decorated, but he told me nothing regarding her, although I felt certain they were well acquainted. He stood, looking after her wistfully for quite a long time, then turned away and threw himself into a chair and lit a cigarette. For an hour the judges stood watching for her return in order to present her with the banner, but she did not reappear, and everyone fell to wondering.